I stood outside Wilson Sons Manufacturing, watching employees stream in for my father's retirement celebration. 40 years he'd spent building this company, and today, my brother Marcus was supposed to step in as CEO. At least, that's what they all believed. "Miss, you can't stand here." A security guard approached, clearly unaware of who I was. "This event is private." I almost laughed, remembering Marcus's voice on the phone 2 weeks earlier. "Emma, don't embarrass yourself by coming. Dad doesn't want you there. You're not welcome." Of course they didn't want me there, the daughter who'd walked away 5 years ago to launch her own investment firm instead of playing obedient heiress, the disappointment who refused to inherit an outdated empire. "Actually," I said, pulling out my ID, "I'm Emma Wilson." The guard's eyes widened, but he shook his head. "I'm sorry, Miss Wilson, your name isn't on the list. Mr. Marcus Wilson was very clear about that." I checked my watch, 9:58 a.m. In 2 minutes, everything would change. "That's fine," I replied calmly, "I'll wait." Patience, that's what the past 5 years had taught me. While my family clung to their old ways, I had been planning, quietly, relentlessly. My phone buzzed, a message from my broker: "Everything's in place. Trades execute at market open." 4 months, I had been buying up shares of Wilson Sons through various shell companies. My father and Marcus, so certain in their control, never saw it coming. They were too busy preparing this grand handover, too busy to notice the ground shifting beneath them. 9:59 a.m. I remembered the day I left. "Manufacturing is our legacy," Dad had insisted. "This company is your destiny." But I saw the cracks: outdated machinery, archaic strategies, an unwillingness to adapt. When I suggested modernizing, Marcus had laughed in my face. "Leave the business to the real players, little sister." My phone lit up. The trades were done. Years of strategy, millions in stealth acquisitions, all culminating in this moment. Through the glass, I saw the lobby filling up, employees mingling in their best suits, champagne flutes in hand, my father ready to deliver his farewell speech. Another message: acquisition complete, 51% ownership confirmed. I straightened my blazer and stepped forward. As the security guard moved to block me again, my phone rang. "Ma'am," he began, but I held up a hand and answered on speaker. "Miss Wilson," my lawyer's voice echoed crisply, "I'm pleased to confirm that as of this moment, you are the majority shareholder of Wilson Sons Manufacturing. Would you like me to inform the board?" The guard's mouth fell open. I smiled. "No need," I said, slipping my phone into my pocket. "I'll handle it myself." I pushed open the doors and entered. Marcus stood at the podium, moments away from announcing his new title. My father sat in the front row, glowing with pride, utterly clueless. Marcus's face darkened when he saw me. "You're not supposed to be here," he spat. "Security." I kept walking, each step echoing sharply. The room fell silent. "Actually," I said, my voice ringing out, "I'm exactly where I'm meant to be." I held up my phone, ready to display the proof. "After all," I added, watching Marcus's expression collapse into horror, "shouldn't the majority shareholder be present for such an important announcement?" The champagne glasses froze mid-air. My father rose slowly, shock etched across his face. And this was only the beginning. The silence in the lobby was total. Marcus clutched the podium so tightly his knuckles blanched, while Dad stared at me as if he'd seen a ghost. "What did you just say?" Marcus's voice cracked. I raised my phone, projecting the stock ownership documents onto the large screen behind him, the same screen he'd prepared for his grand CEO announcement. "As of exactly 10 a.m. today," I declared, my voice echoing in the stunned room, "I own 51% of Wilson Sons Manufacturing. Would you like to see the paperwork, brother?" "Impossible," Dad finally croaked, rising shakily. "The family controls the majority. We always have." I smiled, remembering every patronizing lecture they'd ever given me. "Did any of you bother to trace the shell companies buying shares these last 3 years? Pacific Ventures, Summit Investments, Aurora Capital." Marcus's face drained of color. He knew those names. He had personally welcomed those exciting new investors at shareholder meetings. "It was you," he whispered. "Every share," I confirmed. "While you were planning your coronation, I was planning a rescue mission." Employees watched in rapt horror as the party crumbled into corporate drama. Sandra from accounting even had her phone out, capturing it all. This is a trick, Marcus snapped, desperate. Dad, she's lying. I nodded to Jerry, my lawyer, who had slipped into the room unnoticed. He began distributing the official ownership documents to board members. The SEC filings are complete, Jerry announced. Miss Wilson now holds majority ownership and full voting control. Dad collapsed back into his chair, his retirement speech crumpled in his hands. Emma, why? His voice trembled, almost breaking me, almost. Why? I echoed, stepping closer, because 5 years ago, when I presented a plan to modernize this company, you told me I didn't understand business. Marcus called it cute and threw it in the trash. I turned to the employees. This company has incredible potential, skilled people, a strong foundation, but under current leadership, we're falling behind. Our competitors are innovating while we cling to outdated processes. Marcus tried to interrupt. I raised a hand. Did you know our main competitor's efficiency is 40% higher? That we're losing contracts because we're still using decade-old systems? Board members flipped through the documents, whispering urgently. I saw the moment they realized the depth of my plan, and the depth of their oversight. You're going to destroy everything Dad built, Marcus shot back, but his voice faltered. No, I corrected softly, I'm going to save it. I tapped my phone again. A new presentation appeared on the screen, my full strategy for Wilson Sons, advanced manufacturing tech, automation, green energy, comprehensive employee development. This is what I tried to show you 5 years ago, I said, locking eyes with Dad. I didn't leave to abandon the company, I left to learn how to save it. The room fell silent as projected numbers spoke for me: improved efficiency, reduced costs, increased revenue, all meticulously researched and detailed. The board will meet in 1 hour, I announced. We'll finalize leadership transition and begin implementing the modernization plan. Marcus stepped down from the podium, his triumphant speech discarded and forgotten. You can't just walk in here and take over, he sputtered, but even he knew he was wrong. I already had. Dad stood up again, looking older than I had ever seen him. The company was supposed to go to your brother, he said quietly. It was always meant for Marcus. No, Dad, I replied, just as softly. The company was meant for whoever could lead it best. As the employees began to disperse, whispering to one another, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the lobby window. I no longer saw the daughter who walked away, I saw the woman who had returned stronger, ready to lead. The next hour would change everything, the only question was whether they were ready for it. The boardroom felt smaller than I remembered. Nothing about it had changed, except the power dynamic. 12 pairs of eyes tracked me as I took the seat at the head of the table. The chair that had been my father's for 4 decades. Marcus sat at the far end, jaw tight. Dad chose a seat in the middle, a quiet declaration of neutrality. The board members seemed to hold their breath, waiting for the next act of this corporate coup. Before we begin, I said, opening my laptop, let's address the obvious. Yes, I orchestrated a takeover. Yes, I did it quietly. And yes, I chose today, of all days, to reveal it. On Dad's retirement, Marcus spat bitterly. Real classy, Emma. I met his gaze without blinking. I chose today because I needed to stop you from making promises you couldn't keep. The speech you had prepared, about growth, about market dominance, it was all empty. I pulled up our quarterly reports, projecting them on the screen. We've lost 23% market share in just 2 years. Our largest client, Jensen Industries, is on the verge of walking away. Our technology is outdated, processes are inefficient, and our best people are leaving for more innovative firms. The board members shifted uncomfortably. They knew the numbers, but none had dared say them out loud. And your solution? Dad finally spoke, his voice heavy. Throw it all away? No, I said softly. My solution is to protect what you built, and make sure it survives for another 40 years. Then, I launched into the real presentation, 3 hours of data, strategy, and execution plans. I watched them move from skepticism to curiosity to cautious excitement. The upfront investment is significant, I acknowledged, but I've already secured the funding. Within 18 months, we'll see a 45% improvement in efficiency. Within 3 years, not only will we recover market share, we'll expand. And Marcus? One board member finally asked, voicing the question hanging in the air. I turned to my brother, who had remained silent. That depends on him. The role of head of operations is open. if he wants it. Marcus's head snapped up. What? You know this company better than anyone on the operations floor, I said. I don't want to push you out, Marcus. I want you to help me rebuild it. Under you, he said, the words sharp but his voice subdued. Under whoever has the vision and the will to lead it forward, I corrected. Look at these plans, Marcus. Can you honestly say I'm wrong about what this company needs? His shoulders sagged. Slowly, he looked at the numbers again, then shook his head. I turned to Dad. I want you to stay on as a senior advisor, I said, not for show, but because your experience is invaluable. This company is your legacy, but legacies must evolve, or they die. The room fell silent. Dad stood up slowly. For a moment, I felt like a little girl again, waiting for his approval, but I wasn't here to be approved, I was here to lead. You've thought of everything, he finally said, just like you always did. He paused, then gave me a faint, almost reluctant smile. I was wrong, Emma, I was so wrong. Emotion surged in my chest, but I kept my composure. Board members, I said, turning back to them, you have my full strategy in front of you. I'm calling for a vote of confidence. Who supports this new direction? One by one, hands rose, even Marcus's, after a long pause. Well then, I said, standing, let's get to work. Hours later, after the press releases were finalized and the first announcements made, I found myself alone in what was now my office. The sun was setting across the city, shadows stretching long across the floor. A knock at the door, Dad and Marcus. The employees are still buzzing, Marcus said, managing a tentative smile. I think Sandra from accounting is already drafting a screenplay about today. I laughed, feeling tension drain from my body at last. It was quite a show, I agreed. Emma, Dad stepped forward. His voice was hesitant, unsure. I know I don't deserve to ask this, but can we start over?